very, very good feedback last week, by the way.
Oh,
So.
good. I meant that. I kept meaning to ask, and I just never had a chance to do it.
All right. We are live, and we are back with This Week in Florida Wrestling on World Wrestling Live Florida. And I'm going to share it over to Brant Parsons' room at Florida, Orlando Sentinel Wrestling of Florida this week.
Whatever it's called.
and we're going to let you watch it there as well. So give me just a moment.
I was shocked that the networks picked us up after the pilot. You know, I know pilot season, a lot of things don't get picked up for a second episode. So
yeah, so we're doing.
It must not have been completely terrible.
Not too bad. Here it is, Florida High School Wrestling, Orlando Sentinel Band. Okay, so we're in both groups now. Everybody who's watching us, we're back. Kurt Montagne, what's up down there at Largo? Good morning. Here we are again this week in Florida Wrestling. I've got the great Brant Parsons with me of the Orlando Sentinel, so I'm honored again to have him on here. And we had a lot go on this weekend. I know, and this week, the first week was week one. We didn't have too much go on. We had a few tournaments that we spoke about, but this week a lot happened. Man, I couldn't even write them all on my paper, but man, how's your week been?
I guess first I should just say the hair is not washed. It's just back.
Brush it
people, I never brush my hair. If you guys saw, if I brushed my hair, I'd look like I was in a 70s sitcom.
I brushed mine.
I've not cut my hair since quarantine. I've just had my wife shave the sides, but that's a whole other issue. But I know someone commented on the hair, so the hair is always a topic. Right now my week is I watched a lot of the Danny Byron. I've spent the last 3 days, like 16 hours, I think each day, 12, 16, something like that. Just insane amount of time, just working on rankings, trying to get results and all that stuff. And I will say that last week, a lot of stuff with some really top heavy, great finals and some with even some depth of the semifinals. I know these events aren't as big as they've been in years past because teams are getting quarantined and are restricted by county regulations and all that. But I mean, some of these tournaments really, they still had the big guns in it and some really exciting matches that took place. We had some top, we had at least number one versus number one. We had a couple top kids in weight classes wrestle a couple times at Byron. So really a lot of quality, even if the quantity is not there, just as we continue navigating through this crazy season.
With you saying that, first of all, what's up, Morgan? Thanks for shouting us out. Good to see you on the show today. Thanks for the support. But yeah, it's with you saying that, I was talking to a coach down in South Florida, and we were talking on the phone. I was just calling down there to see how he was doing and his kids, and they were having like a little USA thing going on this weekend. Yeah. But I told him, man, I'm really, this is really selfish and self-centered of me, but I'm really glad South Florida shut down because all you guys are coming up here, and I only need to travel within 20 minutes to see a South Dade, a Southwest. I mean, you name it, the best of the best. They're coming up to Central Florida, and we're getting a chance to watch them wrestle, and we don't have to wait till either the knockout or states. We get to see them every day, and it's caused these tournaments. And I was talking a little bit with Shannon about that. I know you tuned in. Thank you, by the way, for inviting him to my show. It was real nice to finally have him.
Well, he said, man, I'd really like to do that show after our show. And I said, he's about, I can't do it during the day. I'm like, he does nights, I think. I know he's done them sometimes. He's like, oh, okay. And that was my contribution.
Yeah, well, perfect. Well, he came on, and that was awesome. And what's up, Nick Marcus? Thanks for watching. Thank you for the support. Thanks for the shout out as well. Florida Pride there. So anyway, back to that. We've seen these tournaments. This is 2 weeks in a row that I've walked into rooms and we're seeing state competition. I mean, I was at the Danny Byron, and as a matter of fact, I was just messaging with Mr. Tapia, Jaden's dad. Shout out to you guys. And 132 was it 138 is what he was in this weekend. I think it was 2 Georgia State placers, 2 Florida State champions, a kid from South Dade or Southwest who will probably be ranked this week, and Tapia. and it was just an insane bracket. So it was a good prep for him for the knockout. But man,
And that doesn't even include, if you think about 38 and 2A is insane right now if everybody stays at 38, and they weren't at Byron. So if they're all at knockout too, I mean, that weight class, that could be, you'll see state champs in the quarters possibly losing. That's crazy, but that's very likely, especially at a weight like 38.
yeah, it was definitely fun. What's up, Eric Perez? Thanks for tuning in. How you doing? So, what were some of the things? Now, I was obviously focused more on Danny Byron just because that's where I was. I went to a duel at Masters, a tri duel during the week. Um, that was just a little tri duel because my kids were wrestling in it. But I mean, I got to see the two. I want to say it right. The two Cohn brothers. I got to see.
For Masters, Cody, you mean? Oh, Cohen and Cody's, yeah.
Yeah, the Cohn and the Codys. I mean, the Codys didn't wrestle.
Okay.
The Cohns wrestled like 1.5 times. I mean, there was really, there was really no competition for them. But I think just to break a sweat, they jumped on there. But this weekend, obviously last weekend, I was at the Braves, so I saw more happen there. But I took some notes from what you wrote down. There was a lot of big wins out there this weekend and a lot of great tournaments.
Yeah. In fact, the one that stands out to me will start. I'm working on my team of the week. I've got, I don't know, 18, 19 kids that I need to narrow it down. It's so hard because there's so many great performances, and I don't repeat kids. So unfortunately, probably the guy of the week, Andrew Austin, who was in the only number one versus number one by my rankings, knocked off Minto in the final at Archer. He already has been named to wrestlers of the week, so he won't be this week, but probably would have been the first one listed on it. But I'm still trying to narrow a couple weight classes down, but the team of the week was definitely Palmetto Ridge. And they're already in a tough 2A. When I do my numbers based off my rankings and I don't even know how good of a formula it is. Charlotte was the one that was kind of peaking heading into the season for my team rankings as the one with the firepower to match like Gibson, and they still might be because Charlotte's gonna have a lot of kids win state titles this year. But they were
by what, 7 points? 212, 205.
Yeah, and so you have Charlotte going down there and beating Riverdale. I know Riverdale, they're not where they want to be yet. Nobody's where they want to be yet, but I mean, a strong performance for Palmetto Ridge. And as when I looked through the results, and I've gone through the Archer results for my rankings, it was guys winning third place matches and winning semifinals that they shouldn't, not necessarily even winning tournaments. And as we know, when the state tournament does come, sometimes it does come down to how guys do, on the back end, on the bottom, how they do on day two or getting to day two. And that was what impressed me about Palmetto Ridge. It really truly was a team win at the Captain Archer, because it was guys that they're not ranked in the top 4, not top 5, but they had great weekends and they won matches that counted a lot. And so I give they're my team that stands out this week for winning that one, because those 3 really top teams there to win that.
I saw Ridge wrestle the week before, and we talked about it. And then you saw Coach Walker come out and really give a big shout out to Coach Eisen and what he's doing over there. And I'm sure that meant a lot to Coach Eisen, having somebody of Walker's stature say great things about him. And I remember walking out of the gym with Eisen, and Walker's like, "You ain't sneaking up on us no more, boy. We know who you are now." But it was great to see him. They're competitors against each other, but Walker stepped up and really gave him some appreciation. That was pretty cool. But what's happening? Steve Hall is in the house. So hey, Steve Hall, I know he did some really big things over the weekend with Florida girls, and I believe he traveled with them and got them some good competition and some practice. So good for him and what he's doing with the girls out there. But yeah, I mean, I saw a 13 knock off a 5 at that Archer. As far as reading about it, I wasn't there, but shout out to Cardero. He got one past number 5 Newton, right? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I mean that happened, 13-6. I'm not always right, and sometimes I may have had him right and guys step up, but that was one of the big wins that stood out for me. I'm just looking over the results right now. I thought Jacob Bennett from Riverdale knocking off Isaac Church was a pretty big win there. He's kind of jumped onto the scene. But yeah, Cardero was the big upset winner there, if you go by my rankings, if they mean anything. But just a strong performance, and Golden Gate always has a couple guys that are just tough outs, and they've certainly shown it the last few years, and they've got some more of them this year. And he came up big this weekend.
Yeah, and the next big one now. I only have, so if there's anybody out there that hasn't sent
And Cardero is on my wrestlers of the week. That's a lock at 82.
Yeah. And if we go through these tournaments or anything, and you guys were at any of these out there in the public, and you saw somebody who deserved a big win or deserved a big shout out, throw it up in the comments, throw it up in the notes, let us know about it, because we're doing the best we can with what we have, right? But I was at the Danny Byron. First things first. It's my third. Within a month, I've seen this kid wrestle a number of times. First of all, shout out Danny Byron, shout out to Price and Coach Bird and their staff and the Haas family and everything they did to put that tournament on. It was a great tournament this weekend. So thank you for having me there, and shout out to you.
And thank you for having it on, so people like me who are stuck at home because the Florida Gators and Florida State are still playing college football, we're able to watch the wrestling too. And there are no shoes being thrown at Danny Byron that I saw. That
yeah, no. But Walker probably would have thrown his if he would have found out about it earlier, and he probably would have got called for like caution or something like. I don't know what they do in wrestling, but I've been learning. But there's a kid, Frank Tito Solarzano.
Yes.
10 in your rankings right now, but what an amazing young man. I've gotten to meet him personally, but I've gotten to watch him wrestle from the Sunshine Duels to last week, the Brave Duels, to this week, the Danny Byron. And he just brings it week in and week out. He looks like a kid on a mission. I've heard some backstories that he didn't make the podium last year. He was one of the only ones or something to that effect. And it's really driven him. But that kid is on
he was a blood round loser or made it to the blood round. I hate calling anybody a loser, but he did fall one match short of the podium at the state tournament last year.
But this kid is really turning it on. And as far as what I've seen, he's one that stands out to me as a kid just to look out for, that's in the middle of the rankings.
I mean, he has big weight, and just to point that out, he will be moving up. I obviously have him underranked. He beat Moreno, he beat Kraus, pinned him, got the 3-1 win over Moreno. Just really, really, like you said, he's really showing, his strength out there, and obviously not happy with how last year finished up, and someone that and he's a sophomore, so he's young. Much credit to him, and obviously he'll be going up in my rankings this week.
Yeah, he's on a mission now, and I didn't get a chance to watch everybody, but so again, I'm going to say, if you were at the Danny Byron and you had some kids that surprised you, let us know about them. But from matches that I personally watched, and first of all, this is going to sound like I'm an alum of Southwest, or I went to Southwest, or I'm a Southwest homer, but I watched 3 kids, and they just all happened to be from Southwest, and they really surprised me. In Cervantes, Moreno, and Ochoa. What is your opinion on those kids?
I mean, they had great weekends, and yes, I mean, listen, what shocks me, not shocks me, but I think one of the most fun things to watch are guys that are doing the work in the off season. You don't necessarily see them. There are a couple kids that I've found have transferred to programs, not even talking about the South A and Southwest, but other big programs, and you just see how much better they are within like 6 months. And when you're in the room like you are at Southwest or South 8 or any of these other rooms, you get better, and you start to see that at tournaments like this. And they certainly have some guys coming up. And when you're in a room with state champs and state placers and great coaching staffs, it's bound to happen. And they had big weekends. The kids that stood out for me at the Byron, Jace Paradon.
Yes. I mean, and Ryan Mooney, by the way.
What's that?
Ryan Mooney stood out to me as an unranked kid. Makes some noise.
He loses to Heap the first day, and they wrestle again the second day, and he wins that. 2 close matches. I mean, both those kids step out to me. And of course, Hines from Osceola, just dominating the field, majoring a state champ, just really kind of coming into his own, and so much fun. The Hines brothers have always been my favorite to watch. I mean, but
Well,
just,
his older brother didn't set the bar too high for him.
yeah, not too high up, but I mean, they're both just, they're just so fun to watch. They're so athletic, and that I thought was really on display in the matches of his that I watched this weekend. He's just so fast. He's so quick. And you said 38 was a loaded field, and he dominated it. And I
It
think
was
that
insane.
is,
I mean, you had two Florida State champs, you had state placers, you had Georgia State placers, I believe. If I'm wrong, I don't know much about Georgia, but I mean, it was pretty awesome. And I really, really, really wanted to stay because the whole tournament, I saw the Cotto Hines match going to happen, and I really wanted to see that happen. And it looks like Hines got the better of him this time. But they're both great kids, and yeah, Hines is definitely on a mission, and it definitely showed this weekend.
yeah. And those are the guys there that really stood out. I made sure to watch um, any match of Hines that I could, just because I enjoy watching him so much. But the 106, the bouncing back, and I say it so much in my head as I'm doing this, and I have a teenager son now, which it's quite different than when you have my younger girls are just a different person. But I mean, he's in 8th grade, and Jace is in 8th grade, and I just think to be able to, I mean, and Heap's a 9th grader, but I mean, to be able to bounce back like that and get the win the second day. I mean, it just shows that these kids are just, I sometimes forget because I'm around, these kids that do so much and really excel. And then sometimes around my son and his friends, and they're more normal 8th graders. But to see just that kind of poise to come back the next day, that just always kind of stands out to me. And you forget sometimes that these are, so young in the scheme of things, because they carry themselves so maturely on the mat. And he certainly did this
He's such a
weekend.
great kid, Paradon. I mean, I agree with you. To a lot of kids get that loss and don't look forward to the next day. And I'm sure that he went to bed that night saying the only match I want the next day is Heap, and he got it. And I'm sure those two will see each other often over the
Yeah.
years. But, that was definitely great. But yeah, all the Danny Byron, there was some great matchups there. They opened up the dining room area for the second day, so we got through it pretty quickly.
Oh, nobody does tournaments faster and better than
Bird.
than Coach Bird. And I mean, they'll get you out. You'll have great matches, and it'll be, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Now we had we had the Kiwanis, we had the Capital City, we had the Steadwell Grow, the Viper, the Ryan Blackwell, the Will Nutter, and we'll talk about the girls. We had a girls tournament over at Ponte Vedra, which was a real close one where Osceola and Ponte Vedra, I'm probably totally screwing that up, tied. We haven't seen results correct from Coach Kelly or Winter Park or Kathleen yet, right? So we don't know much about.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have scores for a Hurricane, which I haven't updated yet, that I received this morning. Let me find those. Still trying to get actual, but Bloomingdale went 4-0 there, Manatee 3-1, Columbus 2-2. I don't have score sheets. I can't break down who had who there. You did bring I did want to bring up one of the tournaments you brought up, and that's the Kiwanis.
Yeah,
and that was our first chance really to see Tampa Jesuit get out there. They wrestled last weekend in Camden, and the two Florida teams that were there didn't want results out, or someone didn't want results out, so we didn't really get a look of what happened at Camden the first weekend, but really got a chance to see some of what Jesuit's going to look like this year. And they won every weight class from 13 to 60 there, and beat some ranked kids, and got to get some of their top guys out there in wrestling. And they're going to be good this year. But to see guys that I hadn't even really had a chance to digest this weekend. I mean, Gavin Young winning at 32, Chris Albo, who I know comes in with a nice resume, hadn't had a chance to really see him yet. And he goes out there and dominates 20.
Did I read it wrong? I read that an unranked East Bay kid beat number 13 Joey Santana from Jesuit.
I mean, that did happen at 82. Ivan Rosado, who's had a really strong year in both the weeks that he's
The reason
wrestled.
I
So
asked is I didn't know if you had mentioned ran through the weight classes.
well, they went from 13 to 60. They won all of those in a row. You're right. They did not win at 82, but I just a chance to see what Jesuit's going to look like this year. I know they've lost some kids. I mean, they lost Kai, their 106, moved out of state, went to one of those big schools. I forget him once it's Wyoming or Blair, one of those. Mason Arnold, who wrestled at Kiwanis, was with them last year. He's at Carrollwood now, and he won 220, 1 week after beating Chase. But Jesuit, they're going to have their stars, but they also build up the kids real quick, and so it was good to kind of get a feel for them. And there were some good matches there also.
Right, the Oklahoma Seal is up in
Northern Iowa, which they haven't started Division I, but not that I have time to follow it. But Braden knocked off Sean Michael Gonzalez from Northport. He majored him in the final, and Gonzalez has looked great this year. He had a really big first weekend. Danny Vargas knocked off Dominguez in a real tight match, 7-5 from Springstead. He's had a really strong start to the season. So it was just good to, for me, I like when these teams start getting out there and you start getting to see where guys are. I mean, that's one of the things that take so long the first couple of weeks to get rankings done is because guys move around and trying to see where everybody is, and kids that hadn't wrestled before, or sometimes we're JV, sometimes I haven't been told about them, and they come out and show what they're able to do. And I thought we got kind of a taste of that there.
I got to agree with you. I mean, I've seen Braden Basile all summer, all off season. I've had the pleasure of just being at events that national wise, and first of all, what an awesome family. What an awesome young man.
Absolutely.
And that boy can wrestle, right?
Not only can they wrestle, but Sal's really good at making patios look really good. And so I need to figure out a way to make my house somehow closer to Tampa so I can talk him into sprucing up my backyard. But yeah, I mean, just
did him well, right? The quarantine did him well. He put
did his family well. I'm sure his wife really was happy with how her backyard looks now. But yeah, I mean, just a great family, and I enjoy watching Braden wrestle also, and just that whole program. Good to see. Good to get an idea of where they are this year.
Did those two surprise you? The Gavin Young and the Ivan Rosado knocking off a couple ranked kids?
I mean, I mean, it's
Are you there? Hello? Hello.
Because I did not, they're not a false. I mean, they're shocked to me, but at the same time, my rankings are I hope they're all right, but they're meant to be shocked and meant for those things to happen, and I'll try to fix them to reflect that going forward.
Well, a couple of things I noticed we had. So you had already mentioned the Ridge Charlotte real close. We saw Lincoln edged Mosley by 12 points. The Fort Pierce Central 251, Somerset 250.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Fort Pierce Central has really been developing as a program. I'm not going to take anything away from them winning that event, and they've got some top kids this year, and certainly are. They've got guys that are going to be on the podium. They've got guys that are going to be competing for a state title. Russell, I want to say it's Rabe. I've talked to his father. I probably should ask how they pronounce their last name. He had a big week. He beat Colby Uderitz in the 32 final. He's my wrestler of the week at 32. You have other guys. They had 4 or 5 finalists that were runners up in this. Somerset's missing 5 or 6 starters. I mean, like I said, I don't want to take anything away from them for this win. Somerset, though, is not at full strength, not even close to it right now. You have to think if they are.
I don't know
if they are, they win something like this. But but I don't want to take away from Fort Pierce Central because they've got some great kids there. Stephen Krantz, even lost. He lost to Tal Shahar, who's probably the best 95 in the state by far, but he made the final. You have Gabriel Jackass, who again made the final, goes up against Chase Thompson, one of the top 220s in the state. Kevin Finn loses to Kyle Gray. And then Sean Concepcion, who's number 1 from Somerset, beat Charles Allison. But those are 5 straight Fort Pierce Central kids to finish off the day made the finals. Henry Jones loses to Matthew Jimenez in a real good battle.
I was just going to ask
I
you
was gonna
about.
say 1-0. I almost had my soccer side stick out in that one, but
I was going to ask you about Jimenez. Man, that kid, I've seen him wrestle several times this offseason and now going into this. Man, you wouldn't expect what you expect when he gets on the mat. I mean, he turns in, and someone told me, I had a coach tell me that's the young man that owns Isle Style down in the Keys.
okay.
They said that he was like that, just a big kid that you would never expect anything from, and then he'd get on the mat and just whoop you. And and I think this kid is just whooping people.
Yeah. So I mean, again, full credit to Fort Pierce Central. Somerset is one of my 3 teams that it's a toss up to win 1A. I mean, we need to point out, along those lines. So you have Somerset was missing a lot of kids in this. Jensen Beach had a good weekend. But Palm Bay was, and I don't have scores. I don't have score sheets yet from St. Cloud, but Palm Bay was just dominant against some really good teams at St. Cloud this weekend. And, I don't want to like overstep that they were able to go out there and they just, I mean, Winter Springs, Harmony, all these teams, these really good 2A teams. And again, I haven't seen score sheets, so I don't know exactly who wrestled and who didn't. But I mean, Palm Bay beat Harmony in the final 55-12. I know they beat. I'm just trying to find the score here. They beat Winter Spring 63-9. Those are solid. Those are top 5, top 10 2A teams. And Palm Bay is probably one of the best, if not the best, dual team in 1A this year because they're just so deep.
I got to meet their big guy Ozzy at the Sunshine Duels. What an absolute pleasure to be around.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking to him. Obviously the Perot is just an animal, right? And then you've got those middleweights there. They got a few middle guys in those middle weight classes that are just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah. So, I mean, Palm Bay, you have American Heritage, you have Somerset, Jensen Beach, close in that mix. They've already shown that they're able to compete. It'll be curious how it plays out. I want to see Somerset with a full lineup, but I really want to see the score sheets from St. Cloud because I want to see some of those matchups that Palm Bay had against some of those top teams and see, just how good they were this weekend and see where those wins came from. And hopefully I'll get a chance to go over that.
Harbor, they had some great duels. They split it up. I think Countryside won the A side. Palm Harbor won the B side. 2 teams to keep an eye on there. Big things coming out of the Gulf Coast there. After, you also had the Kings Classic. We saw Port Charlotte do things there. We saw some wins by like a Nick, Nick Sloan and Eric Tello had some big wins there. And then you had some smaller duels going on throughout the state. You had the Viper duel and things like that. But and then you had the Ponte Verde girls duel. But with that being said, after going into week 3 right now, Brant, and like I'm learning kind of behind you. I'm just kind of focused on what I go and watch. But as I'm trying to study what you do, is there any teams out there that you might say, hey, okay, we know who South Dade is, we know who Palm Bay is, we know who American Heritage is, and some of these big names that we've seen, like Gibson constantly win and Brandon, but is there a team out there that you say, look, this could be our next team to sneak up on people and start making a run?
I mean, not this year. I mean, if there's one thing unique that has been in the state lately is the teams that are supposed to be there usually end up there. That's why I'm really looking forward to 1A. I know I've been told by some that Somerset will dominate come 1A, and they think my rankings are a bit off on that because they're top heavy, much like, it's tough to factor in Charlotte in 2A because they're going to have so many state champs. But I think, this year we may actually have a race in 1A on the final day, where you have Somerset, you have American Heritage, you have Palm Bay, and again, how they go down the list. And so I think that's an interesting thing to watch, just because we've had, how many straight years where you knew Lake Highland was going to be the 1A champ, and it wasn't even a question. South Dade's probably the 1A champ, and it's kind of a match for 2. I want to see if Southwest Miami can be second again. That was their highest finish since '72. So as great as Southwest Miami has been, they hadn't been second in the state since before I was born, and I'm old. So that's interesting to watch, and it's always fun. I don't know about teams that are going to like step up and take the next step, but you mentioned Port Charlotte, and they've in their area there.
We have Palm Harbor sending you a little magnifying glass, like, hey, keep an eye on them.
I mean, I keep an eye on everybody, but I mean, and certainly they're having a good season. But like, I'm more fascinated by the teams that maybe are on that next level. Fort Pierce Central is a great example of that they're not winning a state title, but they're getting better and better. Port Charlotte, you mentioned, down in the Southwest, and they won the Kings Classic, but they have guys that are coming up, and they're interesting to watch and see what they can do. Palm Harbor is very good, and they're top 5 team, possibly in the 3. I'm trying to see where I had them ranked to start the season.
You're getting some Ohio Buckeye shout outs here.
I don't have the comments up, so I don't know what people are saying, but go Buckeyes. I almost put on my Eddie George jersey today. I was like, no, I'll save that till we get closer to
what's up, McGee? Thanks for getting in. McGee says 1A is going to be really exciting to watch this year.
I mean, I'm looking for, I think 1A is going to be the day where I'm doing math and trying to remember what all the points were. And the coaches are walking around with writing down the numbers, and it's going to be that close. I've missed that. And not to take anything away from Lake Highland and South Dade and to an extent Lake Gibson and before that Brandon, but there's not been a lot of years where we're watching the finals and we're like, ooh, this is going to determine the state champion. This is the team title on the line, and maybe we'll get that this year. I mean, there's a long season to go, and as we've seen, there's lots of potholes to navigate, and keeping kids healthy and keeping them away from kids that get sick and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think 1A, and I haven't told you anything new or surprising there as far as like teams coming up, but I really think 1A is going to be fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to that come March.
I'm looking through the new rankings and stuff when you released them on Thursday. Excuse me. Sorry. One kid that I've seen kind of climb the ladder through the offseason, just because with Mark Prince doing a lot of stuff prior to anybody else opening, he was offering some stuff down in Palm Harbor. So I would go down and watch, and I got to see the young Berberia start to do some things. And I got to watch him at the GFC, and he's made his way up the ladder. You finally have him plugged in there at the top. Is anybody catching that kid? I mean, he's such an animal.
I think he got to the top because he was in a weight class that was really loaded, where I had him before, and then was told, which weight he was going to. But yeah, I mean, it's been something to see. I'm trying to look over some of his offseason results. I mean, he's beaten your guy Solarzano. He's beaten George. He's beaten Rice. I mean, he's knocked off these kids and really kind of worked his way up. And I mean, he's got the pedigree, obviously, got the DNA, and I think, I mean, when you're that big as a freshman, sometimes it takes time to work into your body. Some kids don't need that, but I mean, as a sophomore, he seems to fully have grown into it. And I mean, there are guys right behind him that certainly will challenge him, but he's the favorite right now just for how well he's been wrestling really since late summer.
Quiet assassin, I call him. Quiet assassin. He just hangs out and he's a good kid. I've loved being around him and getting to meet him. But we've gotten through a lot of these tournaments these first 2 weeks, and obviously we're seeing some of the COVID effect, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of events this week that aren't taking place. The Rouse at Haggerty was actually suspended before this past weekend. Seminole County had 3 teams that were placed on quarantine. Haggerty, one of them, Lake Brantley, Lake Mary, I believe, were the other 2. I got that from the Seminole County PIO. So I mean, they actually sent the message out. Haggerty, and just for precaution, just canceled the Rouse early. We've got 2 events up north that aren't taking place. There was an event in Sandalwood. The St. John's Conference isn't taking place. There was a Lady Bulldog at St. Cloud, which is now not taking place. yeah, but we're, because of this, we're getting some interesting thing. I mean, I wish I could be in Key West this weekend, because you've got Palmetto Ridge, you've got South Dade, and you've got Miami Columbus all competing in the duels at Key West. And he was looking for one more team, and I was like, man, I wish I had a team just so I'd have an excuse to go down to Key West.
Yeah, me too.
Because I love it down there. Yeah, so we're still getting these, because of this. We're getting, like I said at the start, we're having really condensed top teams at the top, and we're seeing kids wrestle each other that maybe they wouldn't have until later in the year. But there's definitely, we're feeling the effects of the pandemic, of quarantining, of contact tracing, and those sorts of things. I don't know if it gets better or worse after the holidays. That'll be interesting to see. I know that, the vaccines have started. My friend who is a doctor said it'll still take 6 to 8 months before, like, we start to see like a complete change as they spread it around. But going forward, maybe coaches are going to learn some I won't say tricks, but some ways to keep kids safer and eligible. And obviously we don't want anybody quarantined come mid-February, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of navigate through those kind of final weeks. So we're not getting a normal season, but we're getting a really good season. There's still some events this weekend that stand out, and we'll have some great wrestling to watch. But we've definitely seen the effects with teams being shut down. Brandon wasn't at Captain Archer this weekend. They had to quarantine for 2 weeks. There's been a handful of teams. Orlando Freedom wasn't at Byron. I think it was because of a quarantine. I haven't confirmed that. I know a couple other schools in Orange County have had to shut it down because of contact tracing. So I mean, it's tough.
This weekend for the girls, because
that was a big one.
A lot of girl tournaments have kind of been taken from them, and it's been very tough because, unfortunately, girls are growing, but there's not as many girl tournaments as boy tournaments yet. So you can't just, like this weekend we saw a lot. I mean, if I was talking to 4 coaches on my little text machine, they would, within 20 minutes, they would text me back, up, this team's gone, this team's in, this team's not, this team. With the girls, they get 1 or 2 opportunities every couple.
Yeah. And you lose the main event on the weekend, and hopefully they'll find a way. I know there was talk, at least I saw on social media, of trying to find a way to get them to wrestle, maybe not affiliated with high school. I mean, they have a little bit of that wiggle room because it is not a sanctioned sport, and have a club weekend or USA weekend or whatnot. But I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's tough throughout. I mean, we see coaches, I don't know how many times this week I've had coaches say, oh, we lost our duel this week, or we're looking for a duel now because someone had to back out. And nearly every event coming up this weekend, I've seen notes on, hey, we just lost a team. And, it's not the fault of any of the teams. It's not the fault of anybody. It's just the reality of what it is. I mean, I cover college football. That's my main job. And it's like every day I'm, the first college football bowl game has already been canceled. It hasn't even started. Bowl season hasn't even started, and they already canceled one. It's the reality of it. I've known that going in. I know all the coaches have known that going in. It's not fun. It's not ideal, but it's more ideal than not wrestling. But it's tough sometimes because you're like, oh, I really wanted to see that team there. I really wanted to see that. It's nice to be even tougher for the kids.
It's nice to be open, like you said. I mean, there's states out there. First of all, whoever's listening to this, I'm getting families from Pennsylvania already private messaging me saying that they need tournaments for their kids. PA's been shut down. So any Florida kids out there that are looking to either fill rosters for their tournaments they're going to, or invite more teams down or more kids down, let me know. I'll reach back out to all these PA kids and families, and we'll try and get some more filled out there. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. We've seen it. It's been hot and cold, but at least we're wrestling. As far as girls, I saw girls wrestling at the Danny Byron. God bless them for getting into a tournament like that. I hope they were kicking everybody's butt. I didn't watch them too closely, but there was only, I think 2 or 3. I know my son wrestled one, and then I saw another girl from, I think, Gateway or somewhere that was back there just wrestling her butt off. It was fun to watch. But any of the state level, the top 5 or 6 girls, did you see any of them wrestling at any of these big boys tournaments? And and what their results were?
I mean, I know one off the top of my head. Sophia Anderson for St. Cloud had a nice weekend and beat a kid from Harmony, beat a kid from Winter Springs, had a couple other nice wins. Again, I haven't seen score sheets from there. That's just from their coach is saying that she was to use a really bad pun. She was a bulldog, but she really did wrestle well this weekend. There was a one girls event that was actually fairly well attended. You had Osceola, you had Ponte Vedra, you had South Dade, Matanzas. They all made their way up to Ponte Vedra, and a couple interesting matches there. In fact, my girl of the week, I should bring it out now. Larissa Gallo from South Dade knocked off Morgan Morrison, who was my girl of the week last week after she knocked off the state champ at the Lady Clash of the Titans. And then Larissa, who placed third at the Clash, knocked her off with a third period pin there. But you had some top wrestlers there getting out, and Shannon was out there, so that's how I knew it was going on. But Shannon actually went and watched some of it and sent me a message. He's like, man, there's some really good teams. The South came up here and Osceola's here. And so I was most focused on that, but I do know that Sophia Anderson had a good weekend. Again, anecdotally, since I haven't seen the score sheets.
And I couldn't be happier for a young lady because she's special. She's amazing. I finally was able to have her on my show a couple weeks back, and she stole the show. She's just awesome.
Yeah, she's great. I got to watch her wrestle at Suncoast this past January. It seems like 5 years ago, and like see her interact, and it was just she's beloved by her team, and she works hard and not afraid to wrestle anybody.
Yeah, good for her. So, any expectations from you or surprises going into week 3? Have you broken down any of these tournaments that we know are happening, and you see
I wish
matchups that you're like,
what is it I posted last week? Wow, it's been quite a week, and yeah, it's Wednesday. I haven't had a chance to look ahead, to be honest. I'm still looking back and trying to get my rankings done quicker this week and get them on a better page. I do know about Key West just because I saw the posts and who was going there, and Bill Scott is always close to my heart. I really wish, no offense to Gator fans, I really wish they were not playing in the SEC title game this weekend, because I miss being able to go out to that one. That was the first IBT I covered as a journalist in this role, and that always has a warm place in my heart, and I always like to go out there. They really treat the finals well. But I haven't had a chance to break down who's going where, and unfortunately, that's the downside of doing rankings is I miss out on a lot of things, and I want to tell more stories, and I want to write more stuff, but the kids and the coaches and the parents and the audience, they love the rankings, and I love doing them, but it does kind of hinder me looking ahead too much. And then I'll exhale on Thursday and be like, they're up, and then it's like, all right, I need to get ready for this week coming up.
Did you get any kids DMing you anything yet this week, or do we need to keep on these kids and say, look, anybody from the weekend, send your stuff to Brant so he's got it?
I don't know if they can't find me or I'm getting them right, but I don't get a lot of messages. I did have Jasmine Godinez, and I had bumped her up in a weight class, and she did reach out and say, it was a last minute tournament that I'm not wrestling at that weight class this season. Please bump me back down. And I appreciate it. And I get that from some wrestlers. I get them from coaches. I can't guess where kids are. I said this again. I said this last week. I try to kind of put kids in a weight class where they are, and I know that isn't necessarily where they're going to end up. But she reached out, and she's very sweet. She's an incredible wrestler, on the same kind of level, state qualifier last year in the boys, and just a good, I always call them kids, because I call college kids and they're men. But real respectful, and we fixed it, and it was great. But I haven't gotten a lot of messages. Now this week, if I get my rankings done in time and I post them on Instagram, then then some people might slide into my DMs. But
absolutely slide into your DMs.
But haven't yet.
She's absolutely on my top list of favorite wrestlers in the state. She is absolutely incredible. And her other half, Mr. Kodo, he's a beast also. So I'm sure getting some work together is they turn out some good wrestling. So good for those two. But yeah, I agree with the rankings. Like I look at your rankings and then I show up at Danny Byron and I've got guys in 138 that are wrestling 132, 175 that are wrestling either up or down. And I'm trying to look through the bracket. I'm like, hey, where'd they go? And then I've got to make some adjustments on who I'm watching. But hey, what's up, Mark Prince? I'm sorry I didn't shout you out. I see you watching there. So thanks always for the support and the love. So yeah, well, I guess before we go, I know you don't have it complete yet, but you've got most of them up there. Who are your wrestlers of the week? Who are your teams of the week?
I'm not going to name them all because there might still be some movement. They'll be live in the next hour or two at orlandosentinel.com/wrestling. A couple that are definitely in place. As I said, Palmetto Ridge is my team of the week. Larissa Gallo, she's my girls wrestler of the week. Paradon gets the nod at 106. Hines has the nod at 38 as stated. Cardero at 82. And then the other one that I do know I'm going with, and it wasn't from this weekend, it was from last week, and Henry Benito of Westminster Christian is my 285 this week in their district duels, which we haven't really even got a chance to talk about. District duels have started. At least 2 districts have completed theirs. Lemon Bay winning 1A12, and Westminster Christian knocked off Key West to win 1A16. And it came down to the final match, and it was Henry Benito beating Max Ryan of Key West, who bumped up to 285 to wrestle him in sudden victory 4-2. Max Ryan, I want to say, is ranked 4th in the weight class. If you give me,
how do we follow that, Brand? Like as me, if I want to follow what that dual series is doing, or anybody out there wants to follow that dual series,
I have a dual. I have a schedule page on my website, orlandosentinel.com/wrestling. It lists all of the announced dates and times for when the duels will take place. And then when they happen, I try to get full box scores. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I haven't for the first 2. But I also have brackets I've already created, so you can see where they're going to wrestle in the brackets all the way down to the title. But he gets the nod at 285 for that win. And then the rest of it, I'm still trying to figure out. I have my own rules. I don't have more than 1 kid per team, more than 1 from a team per week, and you can only be on it once. So it's some juggling, but I have, like I said, probably 19, 20 kids that are worthy that are still on my list. And I will finish that up this morning. I woke up this morning and we had bowl games canceled and college football championships moved around. So I had to update all of that.
We'll get it all up. My kid is, he's home virtual learning this week because of everything that's going on. Yes, us too. And he's like, I can't take a test unless you watch me. Are you almost done? He's on the side there.
We're done.
give me 5 minutes. Well, cool. Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd like to follow it. I'm going to go on and look at your schedule because I definitely want to bring that up every week and see where we are with that. And that's the tournament that ends at Osceola, right?
At Osceola. The districts need to be completed by January 9th. A lot of them are taking place that first or second week of January leading up to the 9th. There are some that are taking place in December. We've had those 2. There's a few coming up before the holiday season. I'm trying to think how many there were that I know that were taking place, but it kind of trickles in now. And then, you have that first week of January. I'm pulling it up right now. I can tell you if there's anything this week in state duels. I love state duels. I love dual meets. That's what I grew up on in Northeast Ohio, going to dual meets, every week and everything going crazy. All the 3A duels that I have scheduled so far, they're all taking place in January. 2A2 is this Saturday at Lincoln, as per the schedule. 2A10 is Thursday at Palmetto. We've got 2A11 kicks off this weekend, but their final is not until January. 1A1 is this coming weekend at South Walton, and American Heritage is hosting 1A13 before the holiday. So, I mean, some of them will take place, but most of them is that between January 2nd and 9th where they compete them all.
Also,
and you can find all that stuff on my website.
Perfect.
I hope I make it easy for people to navigate.
I had Geneva Gray on yesterday. She announced, obviously, she's putting on a clinic the 27th. It's for boys and girls in Florida at the Kissimmee Silver Spur Center. boys and girls. She's putting on the clinic. You can go to my page. You can use, there's a code that I have up there. You'll see that. Hey, what's up, Solario? Thank you for the shout out, Nate. Appreciate you. But also remember the knockouts there. If you haven't got your team in yet, get your team in. But also the ladies, you're looking to wrestle. There's a great, they're doing one for the ladies this year. Get it on that. The Southern Belle, and then of course middle schoolers. They've got that available too. So I see Bird and Haas and those guys sharing it all the time. So might as well give them some love. They do a lot for the sport. So if you're not in it, if you know any girls around the country that want to get in it, or boys or middle schoolers, let's give them some love. But anyway, Florida, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the support. Thank you so much to Brant for taking time. I know you're busy as all get out at the beginning of the week, which is why we did this on Tuesday, not Monday. At least you get a little bit of breathing room.
Oh, the show would be terrible on Monday.
Yeah,
It would
hopefully
be absolutely awful on
close.
Monday. It would be a mess on Monday. Tuesday, it's almost passable.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping I give you like at least an hour of sanity there to have a little bit of fun, and then get back into putting on your glasses and trying to read that small print. But anyway, thanks.
I'll take my hair down and get back at it and not watch it.
All right. Well, hey, Florida, have a good week. I hope everybody's healthy out there, and thanks to all the coaches and everybody for what you do and supporting the kids in our programs, and peace.